Philip Duncan from weatherwatch.co.nz with a special weekend update on Hurricane Hilary. And at the time of recording this, which was 11 o'clock on Sunday morning or 4 p.m. Saturday time locally here in the western United States and Mexico, the storm was Category 2. It is starting to weaken, and that's no surprise. The wind is not really the main focus for forecasters as it moves into the United States, although wind will be an issue here at the Baja Peninsula as the storm moves through. But as it moves into the United States, it unravels, and the rain is then the problem, because this is going to be dumping 1 to 3 years worth of rain in just 1 to 3 days. So significant rainfall in desert parts of the United States and Mexico. So on the animated wind map, you can clearly see it here close to the Baja Peninsula, heading northwards. Not very windy to the north there at the moment, but the rain, it's already started to fall. There are thunderstorms and localized downpours across the southwestern corner of the United States and into Mexico as well. So the storm, the wind part of it is starting to weaken, but the rain part, that is not. So here is the latest tracking for it. So you can see the different lines. They call that spaghetti modeling, and it shows you basically different models and where they think the center of that storm is likely to go. So not very often that you see it going right up there next to Tijuana and Los Angeles, and even rarer to see it right up here going past Calgary and northern parts of Canada. So normally you see them out here to the east, and you can see other storms building there in the Atlantic, very normal as we go into the peak of the hurricane season. But of course, this is the main focus at the moment, and we're keeping a very close eye on those strong winds as it moves in here along the Mexican portion of the Pacific Ocean. So here's the strength of it. So as we say, Category 2, while we're recording this, it will weaken to Category 1. And then if it makes landfall here as it just brushes the peninsula, it will weaken either way back to a tropical storm and become post-tropical once it's up there near Las Vegas. So the wind, forget about that so much, although that could still be a problem for parts of the United States, but the rain dumping in this dry area, that is the main focus. So let's break down where the rain will be. Here we are as we go in later towards Sunday New Zealand time, or later tonight if you're in the United States and Mexico. Deep storm tracking northwards. The worst of the wind is just in this area here, but you can see the rain already heading northwards to Nevada, whichever one it is. And then we move through into Monday morning, our time here in New Zealand, but 8 o'clock in the morning Sunday, if you're over here in the United States. Look at all that rain lining up. That is the area of concern, not so much about the center of the storm, although obviously here locally, that's going to cause a few issues. And then we move further through into Sunday night locally here in the United States, and that's when the center of this storm is between Los Angeles and Las Vegas, and that's a very dry part of the world. It's a desert, Death Valley is in this area. So look how dry it is. Now, I wanted to show you this because it shows you so clearly the dry rivers, the dry streams that exist in this part of the world. And so when you dump 100 to 200 millimeters of rain in just a couple of days, that is a huge amount. So all of these dry waterways will come back to life. That increases the risk of flash flooding, wiping out infrastructure, bridges and roads and things like that. And so interstates and highways between Los Angeles and Las Vegas are definitely at a high risk of having some exposure. So here's the wind map. Now this is a very fast moving one, but it shows you how it crumbles from a wind point of view. The worst winds in the pink purple there. And so strong, but then it falls apart as it moves into the United States. So the wind portion of it, perhaps more of a threat for Mexico. Now here is the rain for the next 3 days, the next 72 hours from now. And it shows you the area of concern right here in the middle, coming all the way up in that purple shading, between basically just east of San Diego. You go really up into the dry mountainous parts of southwestern or southern parts of California in that area, and spilling over into other areas like Arizona and later on towards Nevada. So this is definitely a concern in this very dry area. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about is, why is this so unusual? A lot of news stories about this being a historic storm, and it's quite clear when you look at the maps here of traditional historic paths of storms, of these hurricanes. Most of them are in the Atlantic, and they come into the Gulf of Mexico, and they curve around the eastern United States and Canada, and they come right over towards the United Kingdom, even Iceland. So that is mostly what we see with hurricanes. Now on the Pacific side, not so many of them, and the ones that do form are usually around Mexico, and they're heading westwards towards Hawaii or south of Hawaii, as we just saw with Hurricane Dora that fanned the fires across Hawaii just recently, those terrible wildfires. So usually they go westwards. Typhoons, obviously, they're the biggest tropical storms we get. And then you've got cyclones here in the southern hemisphere. But look at this. I mean, here is Los Angeles. So most of these tropical storms are going west. They're going sideways. They don't usually turn around in the Pacific Ocean and come in like this. So that's why this is a little unusual. Normally there are northerly winds coming down here. That works against it. And also much cooler marine conditions in here. That's the reason why you're seeing the hurricane now weakening. But the rain portion of it, that is still coming in through to this area. And just lastly, Los Angeles and Sydney have got something in common, and that's the sort of away from the storms. Tropical storms in the southern hemisphere, they track westwards, and then eventually they curve around and pull to the poles. And as they pull to the southern pole, that places New Zealand in a higher risk than Sydney, even though Sydney is further towards the tropics. So placement of where you are, where your country is and where your town or city is, does matter with hurricanes and tropical storms because they don't track evenly all around the planet. And that's mostly due to the landmass and currents that we've got around the world. That is all from me for this special update. Thank you so much for joining us. And for more information, if you are in the United States, please do follow CNN.com and weather.com or the Weather Channel. Thanks for joining us.